Right now, inside almost every cell in your body, something ancient is working a shift it has worked for 2 billion years. It is not you, not really. It moved in a long time ago, it never left, and without it you would not have the energy to finish reading this sentence. You call it your mitochondria, but it used to be its own organism. A free-living bacterium swimming through an ancient ocean, minding its own business, billions of years before anything that looked like an animal existed. And then one day something bigger swallowed it. Instead of digesting it, that something kept it alive inside itself. The two of them struck a deal. The bacterium would provide energy, the host would provide shelter, neither one ate the other, both of them won. That deal is still running. It is running in you, right now, in every single cell, converting the food you ate this morning into the electricity that keeps your heart beating and your thoughts firing. So here is the uncomfortable question. If a huge part of what keeps you alive used to be a separate creature with its own agenda, how much of you is actually you? And how much of you is just a very successful colony that learned to call itself one thing? Let's go back 2 billion years back. Earth at that point was a bacterial world. Simple cells, single cell, doing what single cells do, eating, dividing, surviving, no brains, no bodies, no you, not even close. Just an ocean of tiny chemical machines competing for resources. Then one kind of cell, larger and clumsier, engulfed a smaller one. This should have ended in digestion like it did billions of times before and billions of times after. But this time it didn't. The smaller cell survived inside the larger one. It kept its own tiny loop of DNA. It kept dividing on its own schedule inside its host generation after generation. This idea has a name, endosymbiosis. One organism living inside another permanently for mutual benefit. The scientist who fought hardest to prove it back when almost nobody believed her was Lynn Margulies. In the late 1960s, she argued that mitochondria and the chloroplasts inside plant cells were not structures your cells invented from scratch. They were former bacteria swallowed and kept. Her paper was rejected more than a dozen times before anyone would publish it. Now it is considered one of the great insights in the history of biology. Every complex life form on this planet, every plant, every animal, every fungus, every single one of them carries the descendants of that ancient captured bacterium inside their cells. You are not the exception. You are the rule. Here is where it gets stranger. Zoom in, past your skin, past your bloodstream, down into a single cell in your bicep or your brain. Inside that cell, mitochondria are not just sitting there quietly. They still have their own DNA, not your DNA, theirs. A small circular strand inherited only from your mother, passed down a direct, unbroken line of mothers stretching back roughly 200,000 years, all the way to a woman geneticists nicknamed Mitochondrial Eve. Your mitochondria still divide on their own timing, separate from the rest of your cell. They still, in some sense, behave like the independent organism they used to be. Biologist Nick Lane has spent decades studying exactly how much power this ancient merger unlocked. His research argues that this single event, one cell engulfing a bacterium and keeping it alive, is the reason complex life was ever able to exist at all. Without that stolen bacterial engine supplying enormous amounts of energy per cell, evolution never had enough fuel to build something as expensive as a brain. Your brain, the thing reading and understanding these words right now, runs on 20% of your body's total energy. None of that would be possible without the descendants of a 2 billion-year-old bacterium still clocking in inside your skull. So when you think, you are thinking on borrowed power, ancient, stolen, repurposed power. Now zoom back out, all the way out. Picture the whole story compressed onto a single mile-long timeline stretched across a desert. Every step represents a few thousand years. That merger, the bacterium moving in and staying, happens near the very start of that mile, impossibly early. Human civilization, everything you recognize as history, kings and writing and cities, happens in the very last inch. You are standing at that final inch. Behind you, stretching back almost the entire mile, is nothing but that original deal quietly running, generation after generation, cell after cell, never once interrupted, all the way up to the exact version of you sitting here now. You didn't inherit that arrangement, you are still living inside it. This is where the question sharpens. Biologist Richard Dawkins reframed the entire conversation around evolution by asking us to stop thinking of the organism as the main character. In his view, genes are the real unit competing for survival, and bodies, including yours, are simply vehicles they build to carry themselves forward. Mitochondria take that idea and make it uncomfortably literal. They are not just genes riding along inside your body. They are a separate genome, running its own separate lineage, that happened to find your ancestors to be an excellent place to live. Does that make you a single organism? Or does it make you a very well-organized ecosystem that agreed a very long time ago to move as one? Neither answer is frightening, and this is the part worth sitting with. This isn't a story about losing yourself to something foreign inside you. It's the opposite. It's a story about partnership succeeding so completely that 2 billion years later the line between self and other simply dissolved. The bacterium isn't a passenger. It's not hiding inside you. It became part of the definition of you. There is no version of you that exists without it. Think about what that means the next time you feel your heart pound after a run, or notice your hands warm slightly after a meal. That heat, that pulse, that unmistakable feeling of being alive is the output of billions of tiny ancient machines, still running the same job they signed up for 2 billion years ago, just for a different tenant. You are not one thing pretending to be one thing. You are a merger that worked so well it forgot it was ever two. So no, you are not just a very successful bacterium. You are what happens when two very different forms of life stop competing long enough to become one thing that neither of them could have been alone. And somewhere inside you, right now mid-sentence, mid-breath, that original agreement from 2 billion years ago is still being honored, quietly, faithfully, without asking your permission, and without you ever having to think about it at all.